Welcome to Paradise with me, Peter Dixon, your vintage comic expert. Today we will be chatting with Matt Nelson, president and face of CGC Comics, about the acquisition of James Spence Authentication. Hello, Matt. How's it going?
Oh, good, Peter. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing very well, thank you. Very excited to chat with you about this. It's definitely an exciting time.
Yeah.
In fact, we've known each other for 25 odd years. You were the founder of Classics Incorporated, and in 2012, you moved your company to CGC and headed the pressing division. Since then, you've been gone to grading. So how did you make the transformation from pressing to grading and eventually the rise of CGC president?
Well, I won't go too far back because we'll be here for a while, but yes.
No worries.
So I started with restoration in the 90s. And then that evolved into pressing as the main service once CGC opened. Obviously, pressing became a very good service once you had the CGC grading standards in place. And so I did that for the early 2000s. And I was also working closely with CGC at that point as well. So when they approached me about buying the company in 2012, we were already pretty aligned. I was submitting thousands of books a month for customers and myself. And so the transition was pretty smooth in that regard. And so I moved the company to Sarasota in early 2013 and continued to press, continued to run the company. Really, very, very little change at that point because the company really hadn't changed, just the walls had changed. And so continued pressing on from that point and I started to transition into the grading room within a year. And that was I think the intention was for me to move onto the grading side. And so that began 2014. And so with each passing year, I was spending more time in the grading room and getting I'd already become pretty well versed in the grading standards. So it was just a matter of kind of getting the lay of the land, obviously the little minutia and details about grading that I didn't know until I was able to peek behind the curtain. Just get to know everybody and just get acclimated. And so that went on for 14 and 15 and 16. And so during that time, we were able to initiate some changes, such as the conservation category, the conservation label, the new holder in 2016 that came out, and then subsequently a lot of other things that went on, other changes like the pedigree label and a number of other things. So that went on 16, 17, 18 into COVID. And so right around the time Blackstone acquired the company was when I was promoted to president. So I'd been in the grading room at that point, or about that point. I was head grader, pretty much handling the duties of leading the grading room. Now, and then once I got the president title, things obviously accelerated with Blackstone. So since then, my duties have kind of expanded to a lot of other different areas. But that was pretty much the path that took me to present day.
That's awesome. I remember seeing you at conventions, going around finding books to press, and obviously you have to have the background in the grading to know what the prime suspects are and the good potential books to come out with a better result.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember you and I. Yeah, we were crossing paths many, many times there over the years of the shows. It was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. Yeah, those were the early days when there was obviously with pressing being a major component, going around and finding press candidates. And yes, it did require a good solid understanding of the grading standards at CGC, because obviously not every book is going to go up in grade with the press. Sometimes the books are fragile, or sometimes they may actually on a rare occasion go down in grade. And so you can't just offer pressing to customers, or even press for yourself just across the board every book. That's a critical component of that. So that was during the time that I learned the standards, because I was figuring out pressing at the same time. But I was fortunate enough to have access to a lot of certified books that were entering the market at that time. So it allowed me to study the books and the holders, and kind of reverse engineer the grading standards, which helped me hone my accuracy on press results, whether for myself or for customers. So yeah, that was a big part of that first 12 years out there in the wild.
The wild, that's a good way to put it. It's a lot of fun at conventions for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then, in 2002, CGC launched the prestigious Signature Series label. And you know what? I'm very proud to have been a part of that. I did a lot of stuff with Paul Litch and getting it all started and whatnot. You know, it was a lot of fun running around conventions, you know, meeting the creators and the submitters, and just explaining the process of how the signature series was beginning and such. You know, uh, one of the biggest benefits of that was Jim McLaughlin of the Hero Initiative. I remember he was very supportive right off the bat of the signature series. He introduced me to people like Stan Lee and Michael Turner and, you know, other creators like that. And it was a great vehicle to raise money for the Hero Initiative through the signature series, because a lot of the artists were always very happy to help out, because you know, they wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for the artists and creators that pioneered everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fascinating. Like I consider the Sig Series program to be as big as pressing and really all coming together under the umbrella of certification. So those three things really make those that to me that's you know a part of the major core of CGC. And so when that started in 2002, like tell me a little bit. I know that you know obviously the seed of the idea was putting, you know, witnessing a signature and putting it in the holder and creating a new yellow label for it through CGC. But the next step that I think you were very instrumental in was to actually get that off the ground and get the word out through all your connections. You had your convention, and so all the people that you knew, the collectors, the dealers, the creators. So is that how did that go? Whenever you once that ball got rolling, how did you spread the word?
Well, that was very interesting. Like we did start the signature series because, you know, I heard a stat that in the sports card industry, more than half of the signatures were fraudulent. So, you know, you don't want that in our industry. If it's a Stan Lee signature, you want to be confident that it is. So, you know, when CGC and I were working on that, I was doing a lot of conventions at the time. So I did talk to different convention organizers about getting introductions and such, and possibly having a room for creators to do that. I did go up to a lot of creators, and some were right in on that and thought it was a great idea. Others were a little lukewarm and kind of shied away for a little bit, and noticed a lot of them have come around since then. But, you know, it was just a great way to have everyone, you know that things are legit and authenticated. And the fans really, really enjoyed it. And obviously, we chatted with plenty of people throughout the beginning years on that. So it's just I can't believe the amount of steam it's gathered. The momentum's fantastic.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. And the creators, I remember they came on board slowly, some of them. And because I think at first it was, you know, like it always was, where a customer or a fan would go up to a creator and want them to sign their comic book. And then you had guys showing up with 30 comics and 50 comics. And they're like, what is going on here? And there's a person standing there witnessing it. What is this person doing? And so, you know, eventually it obviously they became familiar with it. And then now it's evolved into this thing where you've got creators who are having private signings or in-house signings, and they're getting a fee, which is great for them. And everybody's on board. And like you said, the thing's got such a huge head of steam now. It's a monster. So yeah, it's very cool that you were instrumental in that in the beginning.
No, it was a lot of fun. I remember at one show I did go up to a certain creator and said, "Hey, you know what? I got about 50 bucks. I would like to pay you for your time." And he's like, "No, no, I signed for free. This is that. I'm not, you know, I'm only doing five at a time, but you know, they'll be free or whatever." And then I think he rapidly realized that I had to send people up with five books at a time. And he's like, "Wait a minute, I could have been getting paid for this." So he
Doing the
jumped on
same thing.
board at the next show. In fact, pointed people over to our booth to for the signature series for that. So it's great. It's had a great head of steam on that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For sure. That being said, so why did CGC decide to acquire JSA?
Well, there had been demand for authentication for years with us. Obviously, you know, there's tons of books that didn't get witnessed through our program, and so there were so many books out there that really never had a chance to get to the Sig Series program and never would. And so, you know, customers for years have been reaching out. They wanted us to do this. They wanted us to have something in place where we could authenticate their signatures and get their books holdered instead of getting a downgrade or a green label or something like that. And so we had been talking to James Spence, myself, J3, Jimmy. He goes by a few different names, but we've been talking for a few years. We had met at a show a number of years ago, and we had been talking about this idea for a long time. And it took a while to kind of come to fruition, but we finally came to a deal this year, and I think it's really just meeting an insatiable demand in the marketplace, which seems to be growing because it's like the SIG series is obviously growing, which means more people getting things signed. The shows have been growing over the years. The number of creators that have been coming out are growing. The number of fans are growing, and so inevitably the signatures are growing, and a percentage of those are not witnessed. And so the market for this is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so at this point, it just became undeniable that we had to partner or get an authentication program in place. And JSA was they were the people that was the company that was best suited for us. And so it was very exciting to reach a deal with them. And I've been working with the team with JSA since the merge, and it's just they're great, they're wonderful, and they're very professional, and they have a great system in place for authenticating. And so we just launched Friday. I think we just started this formally actually authenticating signatures Friday. So it's been a bit of a blur since Friday, but we're off and running.
That's great. That sounds amazing. And yeah, I totally see your point. Like when we were at shows, I would have people come up to the booth and go, "Oh, I'd like to get this authenticated." And I'm like, I'd have to explain to them that we weren't there to authenticate it. They're like, "But I just did it 30 seconds ago. We can go back to the artist and he'll vouch for it."
Yeah.
And then you have to explain. So I think the acquisition of JSA is fantastic because the demand is definitely there for sure, just from talking with people over the years.
Oh yeah.
In fact, the community's now seen the JSA authenticated black and yellow label. The consensus has been extremely positive. So what are the prices to get a signature authenticated to JSA? Are there like different tiers based on comic value, or how does this work?
I believe it's a flat fee of $25 for the authentication, and that's regardless of value of the comic book. And so the now the comic book has to be regraded. And it's not like a reholder situation where we just send it in, you pay the $25 and get it put on there. So the book has to be regraded. And one of the reasons why is because some of those books were downgraded for SIGs, or they've got qualifiers in place. And so there's an opportunity, or there's a reason there that we have to regrade the book to assign a different grade in those cases of downgrades. And so the book goes through that, but then also it passes through the hands of the JSA team first. So the book comes in, goes to the JSA team. They analyze the signature on the cover or the interior, and then they make the determination whether it's real or not. And the customer also has the option to have the signature graded as well. And so that takes place at that step. And then once the book's been or the signature's been authenticated, then it travels on into the grading room. We do our thing, and then it gets encapsulated with the new beautiful JSA CGC label.
Very nice, very nice. So therefore, I imagine people will be sending in many green and some blue labels to have their signatures authenticated. How will CGC, keep the population report accurate? As I'm sure there's going to be a lot of nice high-end books getting submitted. So we obviously want to make sure that the proper amounts are recorded.
Right. And that's another reason for the regrade is that it's going to get a new serial number. So, and the purpose of that is to keep the census accurate because, it's confusing if you have books on the census switching from green to the new category, the JSA category, or blue there, or, 6 series or whatever. So, yeah, it's kind of like we're preserving by the census by, getting that old number off, getting the new number on the census. So JSA's got its own lane, and we know exactly what's been authenticated to date on it, really any book. Yeah, so that's the way that works.
That's great. That's great. I'm very excited to see, some of the classic creators in our industry getting their signatures authenticated. I guess I'm gonna have to try and look for some LB Coles and some Alex Schomburg signatures for my own personal collection.
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah, just being obviously we go back. We collecting since I don't know what the '80s, and that like all the SIGs up to 6 series 20 or a little over 20 years ago, they were all on the inside of the book, right? Like nobody was sacrilege to sign the cover. And so that delineation that took place from 6 series was important because like all the SIGs, you can almost guarantee a book that was signed prior to 2002 was probably on the inside. And it was a lot of those older artists and creators like LB Cole and Schoenberg and Steve Ditko and Kirby, especially the ones that passed away prior to 2000 and 2002, those can only go into JSA holders. And
Yep.
so that I think is going to really change the market on those SIGs because, particularly, the rare ones like, LB Cole or especially Ditko, and Kirby too. I mean, they're going to be, I think it's going to really change the market on those.
That's gonna be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So based on that, then, with most signatures in the past, as you just mentioned, on the first page and not being visible when encapsulated, has CGC thought about, scanning the signature and making a custom option label with a scan of the signature?
Yeah, yeah, we're exploring that. Well, actually, we're doing that. We're going to be doing that now. And so it's not the actual image of the signature is not going to be available quite yet. We have some more programming we have to do, but the idea goes like this. During authentication process, if a SIG's on the interior page of the interior cover where it can't be seen through the holder, then we're going to capture that or image that signature in addition to the authentication process. And then once the book is finished grading and certified and ships, the image of that signature is going to be uploaded to using the verification tool. It can be looked up along with the image of the book. So it'll be uploaded to our database. So when a customer gets his book back, his or her book back from us, they can enter the number on the verification lookup on the main website. And there, in addition to the front and back of the holder of the book, that'll also be the image of the signature or signatures, depending on how many there are in there. And so, yeah, and that's going to be a service that we're just going to offer for free. And so, yeah, just kind of an added bonus because, yeah, we really, I mean, up to this point, everyone's so focused on SIGs on the cover, but really, yeah, there's just a whole sea of signatures from back in the day, especially those guys we were talking about, and you can't see it in the holder. And so it seemed like it made a lot of sense to have an image of it somewhere that is preserved. And so that's the idea, is to have it online for anybody to be able to look up and see.
That's spectacular. That's great because, yeah, some of those signatures are a work of art in their own right as well, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, do you think the new program of these authentications will, potentially decrease or level the distinction between like a verified signature and a signature series between the two labels?
A distinction in the marketplace.
Yeah, you know what? Are people gonna, what's your gut feeling? Are they gonna want a witness signature or just an authenticated signature? Do you think that's gonna make a difference in the value and the interest?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. My gut feelings tell me it's probably not going to be much different. I think, if with JSA authenticating the signature and basically confirming that it's real, in addition to the SIG series confirming that it's real, at the end of the day, the SIGs on the book are real, if they're real. And so if all the SIGs are real, whether they're verified or witnessed or authenticated or witnessed on either side, I think at the end of the day, collectors are going to look at that the same way. The labels are very similar. And, so I guess time will tell. We'll see. It's going to be interesting because, I mean, you got a lot of scenarios. You've got, a lot of you've got combinations of signatures. You've got some signatures that are old with some new ones. You got a whole bunch of new ones where one didn't get witnessed and now it can be authenticated. So there's so many different, I guess, permutations of this that are going to come out in the marketplace. It's really only time is going to be able to tell, if there's a value difference between the two. But I don't really, I think it's going to be driven mainly just by the number of, or the type of signature, the person, and the number of signatures, the rarity of the signatures. Obviously somebody like Steve Ditko, I mean, I don't even know if there's what, 5 or 10 in the world, maybe on a comic book. I don't even know.
Probably, yeah, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be the big one.
Yeah,
Someone's
that's
in
going
their,
to be the
someone's in their basement right now going, I can't wait to submit this. It's gonna be amazing. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
great.
Or if you get like you get a Steve Ditko and you happen to have a Stansig on it too, or a Jack Kirby, like that's going to be mind blowing. So who knows? Yeah, I think it's going to be, but it really certainly opens the door to a whole nother facet of value and desire in signatures on comic books. So it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens.
I agree. That will bring a whole new level of excitement for sure. Um,
Yeah.
Is JSA going to be appearing at conventions to accept signed comics? Will they be giving their advice, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're still working through the show schedule because currently JSA has a very, very packed show schedule. Obviously, CGC does their shows. So over the course of this year, we're going to be integrating the two into like one really at the shows. How that's going to look, what shows we're going to be at, I'm not sure yet. But the idea is to have everything under one umbrella, so people can obviously have their books authenticated, or really anything authenticated. And that's the thing is that when JSA set up at these shows, they're not just authenticating SIGs on comics. I mean, they're doing, baseballs, baseball bats, jerseys. On the sports side, they're doing Funko Pop. They're doing like all these different collectibles. And so, yeah, if you're at a big show like New York, it's valuable to have JSA there, not just dealing with comic books, but anything that comes up to the booth. And obviously that can be routed directly into the pipeline for comics now for certification. And so, like I said, we're still figuring out exactly how this is going to work, but it opens the door wide open for having a larger suite of services under one umbrella at these shows at one booth. So that's very exciting.
That is great. That is great. I noticed, with this, and you guys have just taken in a free comic book day. You're doing something along those lines. Can you give us a quick overview on, some of the programs CGC's has on educating customers and, just promoting the hobby, which you guys are doing a great job of bringing people in.
Yeah. Programs. Gosh, we have so many things in the pipeline right now. We have on site coming up at Heroes next month. And so on site is now that we're through COVID, it's been over 4 years. We're looking to ramp that up. So a lot of people excited about Heroes. Um, Gosh, let me think. What other programs we got? Like usually when I get on and I talk about this kind of stuff, I have to be a little dodgy about because
Yeah.
it's always under wraps until we launch. But we certainly have a lot of things in the pipeline that we're working on. Obviously, right now, I would say that JSA was the big one. Pulps just launched a couple months ago. On site is getting ramped up. Gosh, that's all I can think of. I don't know if you throw something out, any rumor or anything that you've heard. I'll see if I can talk about it.
Those specific rumors, as I said, it was just very interesting to see you guys promoting the free comic book day and having the specific label, which I think is always great because
Oh yeah.
you're bringing in the little kids and you're helping promote the hobby, which is always a great thing. You can never have too many people in reading.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was we comic book day. That was really fun because it was at 2 weekends ago, and yeah, we did this big. I don't know if you saw the blitz we did on social
Yeah.
media. That was incredible. I only had one store to go to, Dark Side here in Sarasota. Sean, they put him on a plane, and he went. Well, I think he hit like 4 or 5 or 6 stores in a day. It was crazy. He was in Baltimore, New York, and then of course we had Brittany and people all over the country. And yeah, it was really exciting to ramp that up because yeah, free comic book day is just huge, and it's exciting to go in the store and see like a line of people out the store down the street, hundreds of people coming in to get their comics, and like you said, it helps promote the hobby, expose kids to it. Or to really anybody that's maybe only had an ancillary interest or a curiosity about comics, and just having all the publishers come together in the stores and us promoting that really, that's just something that I think is gives back to the community in a big way. So yeah, we're really, really excited to be a big part of that. I've got one surprise for you here at the end.
Really?
This is the big reveal. So you had submitted a book to us yourself for JSA authentication. And so we got that book in, and I have it here for the reveal. Now this is special for a few reasons. One, because obviously it's your book, right? But this is also the very first book that we authenticated Friday morning. We had it waiting for us whenever the team arrived, and we got off and running. And not only that, but it's a really big book, and it's a really great signature too. And so here it is, Captain America #1. Yeah, first Captain America. Of course, this needs no introduction. This book, right? Classic cover,
Yeah.
classic everything. And it has Jack Kirby signature on page 1. So yeah, and it was previously graded 1.5. Of course, that didn't change.
Yep.
But it was Jack Kirby, of course, was mentioned on the label, so we all knew it was there. And of course, you were like, well, that's clearly the first book I want to send in, right? So
That's the
yeah.
one.
Yeah, and so so here it is. This is what the label looks like. So it's yellow with the black strip on top. And yeah, like you said, it seems like the response was really good. Like people seem to really like the label. And we definitely put a lot of time and work into it, designing it. So I was happy to see that feedback. But yeah, and then you also got, there's one other feature here that we didn't
Mhm.
talk about yet, or maybe I mentioned slightly, and it's got the grade of the signature itself on the back, which got a 7. So
Very nice.
yeah, I believe it's a 1 to 10 scale, similar to CGC, but there's no half grades or quarter grades, and so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 10, and so this got a 7. So I believe the rule on this is that we see JSA will grade up to 2 signatures on a book. So if there's a book that has 3 or more signatures, they can only grade 2. Now the customer gets to pick which 2 they want if there's more than 2. And if it's 1 sig, it gets a grade. If it's 2 sigs, they'll both get graded, and then an average of those grades will be the grade that appears on the label. Uh, yeah, and so that's an extra fee there. So that's an option for customers if they like that. And so for you, yeah, you got a 7 on yours, and then obviously Jack Kirby on the front. Jack Kirby authenticated autograph, page 1, and I took an image of the signature. So we'll have
Great.
that to upload, once that step is finished here. So be able to
That's
look it up on the
fabulous. I
screen.
can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Oh, it's very cool. Because did you buy it like that, or did you buy it in the holder?
No, we originally submitted it raw, so we did get to
Oh,
look at
nice.
it, but that was a number of years ago. So
Yeah.
it's nice to get the scan revisited for sure.
Oh, yeah, because these SIG, I mean, it's like once the book's in the holder, the only opportunity for anybody to see an interior SIG is like back in the day before it was holdered. And, this is a great way to finally get that back out so people can see it, even though the book is certified. So, very cool. But yeah, thanks for sending this in. So yeah, everybody, the very first JSA authenticated comic book right here.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
So,
welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you for the interview. It's been great chatting with you, and a pleasure being on here. And we can certainly touch base and do this again in the future if you like.
we'd love to. I've got plenty of things I want to talk to you about in the near future for sure. But thank you
Absolutely.
very much for joining us, Matt. Thank you, everyone who's going to be watching this. And this is fabulous. CGC unveiling the new JSA label.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me on. I'm sure I'll see you at a show soon. And
Definitely.
we'll do this. Yeah, we'll do this again.
Sounds good. Thank you very
Okay.
much. We'll talk to you soon.